Story 1. Halloween night, the year my parents finally trusted me to stay home alone, I decided to be the cool house. I put a big orange bowl on the porch with a handwritten sign, "Please, take one," and left the door cracked so I could hear the little stampeded feet, the muffled thanks through masks, the plastic swords scraping the rail. I was 17 and too old to trick or treat, too young to not feel lonely on a night built for noise. From the living room couch, I could see the bowl through the front window when I leaned just right. The street glowed pumpkin orange. Somewhere down the block, somebody's Bluetooth speaker looped Monster Mash until it wasn't funny anymore. Kids came in irregular clusters, and the pile in the bowl sank like a slow tide. Fun-size crunch bars, lollipops, cheap taffy. Normal. At 8:14 p.m., the doorbell chimed, even though I hadn't set it to chime. I sat up, spilled some popcorn, and checked the window. The porch was empty. Wind tugged at the sign. The bowl looked fuller? I went to the door and opened it a hand's width. Cold air reached in like a hand. Nothing on the steps, no giggles crouched behind the shrubs. But the candy had been rearranged. Every wrapper, face up, rainbow perfect, like a display. On top, resting like a cherry, was a candy I knew I hadn't bought, an old brand my dad talks about from when he was a kid. The kind of wax paper wrapped caramel you only see in vintage photos. My phone buzzed. Motion detected. Front porch. I opened the clip. It showed my own hand opening the door, and before that, 11 seconds of stillness. No one stepping into frame, no hand touching the bowl. Just the bowl becoming neat between one frame and the next. I told myself somebody had reached in fast and the camera had lagged. The chime could have been a trick of the speaker. Bluetooth does weird things. I made cocoa and put on a slasher and pretended to be bored. At 9:02, the bell rang again. Not the sweet new chime, our ancient mechanical bell that hasn't worked since we replaced it. A sickly burr from inside the wall. I felt that sound in my teeth. I moved to the window and eased 2 fingers under the curtain. Somebody was standing on the sidewalk at the end of our short path. A costume, I thought. First tall, long coat, blank plastic mask with featureless hollows. They were holding something tucked against their chest. They didn't move. Their head wasn't turned toward the house exactly, more like it was leaned a few degrees off center, as if listening to a voice just behind their ear. Another batch of kids turned the corner, loud and candy dumb. The figure didn't flinch. When the kids left, the figure began the slowest walk I have ever seen. A glide, really, up our path. 3 steps, a pause too long, 3 steps. I stood behind the door, breath shallow. They stopped beside the bowl and picked up my sign. They turned it, set it gently back down, upside down. That's all. Then they pivoted to face the glass. I pulled back from the window so fast the curtain snapped the rod. I watched through the peephole, warped fisheye, porch light haloing their head. The mask looked wrong in the peephole, stretched as if the plastic might still be soft from the factory mold. They didn't reach for the bell. They didn't reach for the knob. They just stood, listening, like a person trying to hear the ocean in a shell. I whispered, "Go away," and felt stupid immediately. They lifted what they'd been holding, a metal lunchbox, dented, with a faded rocket ship painted on the side. They set it in the bowl, on top of the candy. Then they stepped backward down the path, without turning, fluid as a film run in reverse, and moved into the dark between streetlights, as if it were a seam they slipped through. I locked the deadbolt and the chain and the bottom latch I forgot we had. When I finally cracked the door, the air smelled like basements. The lunchbox was colder than the air around it. The latch clicked stiff when I opened it. Inside, a stack of Polaroids with white borders, gone nicotine yellow. Every photo was my street. Same maples, same sagging wires, but wrong by increments. In one, our porch had iron rails we've never owned. In another, My house number had its digits transposed. In 3 of them, the same bowl sat on the same step with the same "Please take one" sign, but handwritten by somebody else. The last photo was a close shot of our door like a real estate listing. Through the narrow sidelight window, a sliver of interior was visible: lamp, bookshelf, the edge of the couch. The timestamp in the bottom margin read 10:31 inches smeared ballpoint. I was in the couch reflection. Not a reflection, a ghostly double where a reflection should be. I was turned toward the door, mouth slightly open, like I was listening. From the kitchen came the soft drag of something across linoleum. I didn't move. The sound stopped. I did the math of the house in my head. Where that sound would place, what it would touch. Our back door has a deadbolt you lock with a key from the inside. I hadn't used it in months. I texted my dad. Weird sounds. You up? He sent back. Want me to call the neighbor? I typed yes and then deleted it. Pride is an expensive habit. At 10:17, someone knocked from inside our hall closet. Not a bang, a courtly toke-toke, like politely asking. The closet with the vacuum and the coats. The closet that shares a thin wall with the front steps. I put my palm on the wood and felt the faintest vibration. It felt like the childhood memory of a heartbeat when you press your ear to your own cat's side. I called 911. The dispatcher kept her voice in that soothing register designed not to transmit fear. Stay on the line. We have a car in the neighborhood. I heard distant siren float, then fade. While I waited, the front doorbell chimed a mechanical brrr once, as if tested. The closet knocked again, 3 times, with long, polite pauses between each, patient as a metronome. The officers were practical and tired and kind. They cleared the house, checked the attic and crawl. The closet was empty. The back door had 2 scratches low on the frame. Nothing unusual for a house with a dog, which we do not have. The lunchbox was bagged. They asked, gently, if anyone might be trying to scare me, a friend, a boyfriend, a neighbor who hates teenagers. I shook my head until my ears rang. Before they left, one officer, older, looked at the bowl and the sign and said, "When I was a kid, our neighbor put those signs out every year. Take one." None of us did. Still feel guilty about it. Funny what you remember. He tapped the rim of the bowl with his knuckle and smiled at me like we shared a joke. Then he frowned. He turned the sign right side up. Somewhere well after midnight, the Bluetooth speaker down the block finally ran out of battery. The street went very quiet. I made a pallet of blankets by the door, like a dog guarding a den, and watched the peephole until the halo blurred. Around 2 a.m., the doorbell chimed once more. When I sprang up, heart-punching, there was no one on the porch, but the bowl had changed again. The candy formed letters now. Every tiny wrapper rotated into a childish block letter. Letmein. At sunrise, I dumped the whole bowl into the trash and swore off Halloween forever. That lasted exactly a year. The next Halloween, my parents insisted we sit outside together with the bowl and a thermos and make a night of it. We did. It was normal. It was fun. The only odd moment was one costume, a blank mask and long coat, who stood at the end of our path and never came for candy. Dad squinted. "Somebody's reprising the old-school creeper vibe," he joked. When we packed up, I folded the sign and slid it behind the porch light where we keep seasonal junk. My fingers brushed cool metal. There, wedged between wood and siding, sat the dented rocket lunchbox, lid latched, colder than the night around it, like something pulled from a river. I didn't open it. I don't plan to. Most nights, I don't think about it at all, except on Halloween, when the door knocks politely from the wrong side of the wall. Story 2. My town's corn maze advertises itself like a dare. Get lost. The field sits behind a pumpkin patch and a hayride loop, and every October, the high school feeds it a steady stream of seasonal employees. I took the job because my friend Eva did. We worked the last shift, the midnight sweep, walking the maze with headlamps after we closed to make sure no drunk teens, bored couples, or absolute fools had decided to sleep in the dead ends. Halloween night is overtime chaos. Last hayride at 11:30, last maze entry at 11:45, sweep at 12 sharp, doors locked by 1. The manager, Craig, handed us radios as if we were cops and said, "Standard pattern. Keep to your lanes. If you hear anything weird, it's probably Jesse in the scarecrow costume. He's not supposed to be in the field after 11, so tell him," I said, to knock it off. He grinned like he expected us to be braver than we looked. "And don't cut through the corn. People paid to get lost. Let them have it." The maze map is taped beside the office door. Aerial photo with red lines for paths, and little skull and crossbones to mark dead ends. Exit printed in cheerful font at the far corner. I could draw it from memory now. The long dog's leg, the corkscrew, the fake-out loop that spits you back where you started. I strapped on my headlamp and went in at Gate A. Eva took Gate C. Our radios crackled. After midnight, the field goes from party to cathedral. The cornstalks are 12 feet high. The air turns to breath you can see. Sound changes, footfalls swallowed, radio hiss big as a lake. My headlamp made a tunnel of sight. Everything beyond it felt like eyes. I know that reads dramatic, but it's true. Corn is like walls, and long walls talk. I found 2 stragglers almost immediately, kids, real drunk, trying to flirt and failing. I led them out. Told them they owed me $15 each for the escort, a yoke we all make. 1 in 10 tries to pay, and went back in. At 12:20, I heard a child crying. My whole body shifted gears. We get the occasional family who doesn't understand that midnight means go home. I followed the sound thin. Hiccuping sobs left at the dog's leg, right at the fake-out. My lamp sidelighted the stalks like ribs. "Hey," I called. "You're okay. Keep crying so I can hear you." The crying stopped. My radio clicked. "Eva?" I said. Static answered, then her voice, small with distance. "I thought you were behind me." "Negative," I said, "because saying negative makes you feel like you deserve a radio. I'm in the North Run. Did you hear a kid?" "Yeah," she said, then, "I thought it was near Gate C." "Now I think it's near you," Craig broke in. "Guys, stop with the creepy kid bit. Get your sweep done and get out. We've got people waiting on hayride cleanup." "We're not doing a bit," I said. I heard the radio squealed like something pressed a thumb to the speaker. Then, in a voice that was mine but wrong in the cadence, my radio said, "We're not doing a bit," and then hissed. I took off my set and held it at arm's length. It crackled like a fire. "Copy?" I said finally. "Someone's messing with channels." No answer. The field felt bigger. I could feel the map in my head, but my feet suddenly weren't sure of it. The path curved in a way the map didn't. I came to a dead end that shouldn't have existed. Walls too tight. A scrap of fabric snagged on the stalks at shoulder height. I pinched it off. Burlap. I thought of Jesse's scarecrow costume. I backtracked, counting steps like we'd been taught. Left, right, straight. The path led me into the corkscrew, only it didn't spit me where it should. The night had pulled the geometry slightly out of true, like the field had shifted on its axis when nobody looked. "Eva?" I said again. "I'm at the center skull," she answered. "Except the skull's gone. The sign is, like, pulled. Did you move it?" "A beat." "Don't answer that like a bit." I started to say negative again, but a figure stepped into my lamp's edge on the far side of the path. Tall, burlap head, straw hands. Jesse, I thought, with a huge wash of relief. "Jesse," I said. "Craig's going to." The figure swayed a little and lifted one hand. In the beam, straw looked like hair. It pointed down the path past me. I turned my lamp that direction, nothing but corn, and when I turned back, the path was empty. But the smell of old sacks and stored apples lingered, thick and sweet. I moved. The map in my head felt like somebody else's instructions. Twice I tried to cut through the stalks, just to prove to myself I could, and twice the stalks were so tight I couldn't force my shoulders through. I tried my phone. 1 bar. The time said 12:06. It had said 12:06 the last time I looked. My headlamp made a halo in the cold breath my mouth threw out. Dirt stuck to the sweat on my neck. Around another turn, I found a small clearing that isn't on the map. In it stood a plywood door frame with no door, one of the props they sometimes set up for jump scares. A sign hung crooked across it. Dead end. The letters were backwards, as if I was reading the wrong side. In the dirt beneath, 2 sets of footprints overlapped like a Venn diagram mine, and a parallel set, exactly the same length, stride for stride. I stepped away from them, as if they were hot. My radio popped, then, clear as someone whispering in a pillow. "I can see your light." It was Eva's voice. Then my voice layered a breath behind it. "I can see your light." The 2 voices spoke together. "Don't turn around." It took everything I owned not to turn around. Every animal instinct I have wanted to check the dark directly behind me. I closed my eyes and said, "Let's both walk toward the music." The hayride loop plays a dumb Halloween playlist, tinny over cheap speakers that tick in the cold. Usually you can't hear it from inside the maze. Now I could. Barely just the base of it. A distant heart. I walked. I counted steps. 30 forward. Pause. Listen. 5 right. My headlamp picked up a cigarette butt, crushed flat evidence of people, a holy relic. Somewhere ahead, a stalk cracked. Something moved parallel to me just out of beam. "Don't cut through," Craig had said. I did. I put my shoulder against the stalks and pushed. The leaves were blades. Dry husk slashed my cheek. I came out into a path that wasn't a path, then into another that was. The bass got louder, then louder still, until the dumb speaker itself appeared like a lighthouse, perched on a post at the field's edge. I burst into the open like a diver breaking surface. Cold air that wasn't corn air, the parking lot lights, the dying embers of a fire pit, the hayride tractor like a sleeping animal. I bent over and rested my hands on my knees and laughed and cried at the same time, a noise I didn't recognize. Ava stumbled out 2 minutes later from a different exit. She had straw in her hair. Her face was gray in the lot light. We didn't talk. We hugged hard, and then we went to the office together. The first thing I did was check the wall map to prove something to myself, I think. The tape corners had peeled in the humidity. The exit arrow had been moved with greasy fingers to point to the wrong edge. Craig swore he didn't do it. Jesse swore he'd been in the employee tent since 11. "Somebody's playing," Craig said, trying to find the joke in it. He put his fingers on the map's skull at the center and pushed. The paper made a soft sound like breath. In the break room, my phone vibrated. A notification. New album created. 12:06 a.m. It had auto-sorted my headlamp photos. There were 34, all accidental light slashes. Corn at weird angles. My boot. The last one was of the plywood door frame from the wrong side. In the sideways flash, the sign didn't say, "Dead End." It said, "Do not follow yourself in marker," the letters big and shaky, like written by someone with straw for fingers. The next morning I found burlap threads caught in the zipper of my jacket and a smell in my hair I couldn't wash out for days. Apples, sacks, old hay, like the inside of the props shed. We were on the schedule for another sweep that night. I called in and said I'd take hayride cleanup instead. It's funny we all keep working there. The pay is bad, and we all keep working. October leaks into you. Sometimes, late, when the last wagon comes in and the floodlights click off in sequence, the field looks like it's listening to itself. And when I pass the map, I press the exit arrow down with my thumb and whisper, "Stay," like you do with a restless dog. The arrow never stays where I put it. Story 3. 2 Halloween parties. 2 addresses. One sent to the group chat at noon with a bat emoji. The other texted to me privately at 5 by a number I didn't recognize. "Hey man, remember the half-mask theme?" New address, followed by a pin that dropped a red teardrop on a quiet street 3 miles from campus. It was cold that year in a way that made breath look dramatic. I wore a thrift store suit and a cheap half-mask that made me slick with sweat under my eyes. My friend Noor bailed last second because her Uber driver creeped her out. She sent me a dozen safety texts and made me promise to share my location. I did, because Noor is always right. The house at the pin was dark from the street but hummed with the particular electricity of a party bass in the floorboards, laughter swallowed by closed windows. A single plastic skeleton slouched on the porch swing, legs crossed in an old man pose. The house number was hand-painted above the door. It was our address, and it wasn't. Our campus addresses all start with a 2. This one was the same digits in a different order. I knocked twice. The door opened a crack like it had been waiting to. A man in a half-mask, plain white, the kind used in high school plays, stood in the gap and tilted his head to mirror mine. "Half-mask?" he said, amused, like he'd caught me in a theme test. I held up my own mask between 2 fingers, embarrassed. He opened wider and gestured me in with a little flourish. "You made it." Inside, lights were low, the kind of low that forgives dust. The music came from speakers so small I couldn't find them. People in half-masks stood in clusters, talking. I say people because that's what they were, but what I remember is the sameness. Every mask, the same cut, every outfit formal, black or dark gray, like a choir that had taken a wrong turn. No one's eyes seemed to find mine when they spoke. They talked like friends who know one another's tells. I didn't catch a single name. "Kitchen?" the doorman asked me, as if he were a host. I nodded. He waved me down a hallway too long for the house. At the end of it, a narrow kitchen waited, clean as a display. On the counters sat a punch bowl as still as glass. Above it, written on masking tape stuck crooked to a cupboard, "Please take one." I laughed, shaky. "Good one." My voice sounded strange around the mask. The man watched me ladle something that didn't smell like alcohol into a red cup. "We were worried you wouldn't come," he said, friendly. "You're later than the others." "Which others?" I said. My phone buzzed. "Noor, you there? Send pic." I lifted the phone and took a quick shot over the bowl. When I checked it, the photo showed the empty kitchen, no one else. The man smiled like a dog. "Bad reception," he said. "You'll want to keep moving. The back room gets warm." He meant the living room. He didn't, but that's where I went. It was arranged like a waiting room, chairs along walls, a coffee table in the center with nothing on it. The walls were hung with black and white photos that looked staged. Front porches, sidewalks, empty driveways, all at Halloween. In one, a candy bowl sat on a step with a "Please take one" sign. The handwriting was like mine when I rushed too tall, the S's like lightning. The longer I stayed, the more the house felt like a set built from memory. The hallway seemed longer a second time. The music made no errors, no skips, no DJ ad-libs, just a sine wave. I texted Noor a pin and watched it try and fail to send. She called. The screen lit my hand like a lantern under a blanket. I went for the front door to step outside and take it. The door was locked. Not regular locked, latched with a chain I hadn't seen before. A thumb turn that wasn't there when I'd come in. The man put his hand gently to the door above mine. "Hang on," he said, polite. He didn't touch me. He didn't have to. I slid the phone back into my pocket without making a decision to. "Half mask," he said again, as if pleased. He tilted his own until the eye cutouts didn't line up with his eyes anymore. "The others are waiting for you in the back." "I thought this was the back," I said, joking like that might make it true. He didn't blink. He gestured again down the too long hall. The farther I went, the older the house smelled. Cut flowers, dust, the iron tang of old radiators. The kitchen led to a mudroom with a second door. I put my hand on the knob. The man said softly, "Not yet." 2 other guests, men, I think, stood by a small door low on the wall, one of those crawlspace hatches for plumbers. Their masks were identical to the host's. One of them held a bundle of something long and dull wrapped in cloth. He handed it to me like you'd hand someone a baby, an old, terrible habit clicking into place in my muscles as if I'd held it before. "It's yours," he said. I didn't want to open the cloth. I did. Inside lay a metal lunchbox, dented, with a rocket painted on it, colder than the room around it. "We've been passing it door to door for years," the other man said conversationally. "You must have had it last time." "This is a bit," I said. "Right?" No one answered. The hatch door had 2 numbers stenciled on it, black on gray. Our address, my party's original text, and the address on the front of this house, one above the other, wrong stacked on right. My skin felt too big for my body. Something tapped from behind the hatch. Not a mouse. 3 knuckles, polite. The man with the first mask nodded at me to knock back. I didn't move. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'm leaving." I moved faster than I thought I could, with my legs cold with fear. Back through hallway, past the waiting room, past the polite guests who didn't turn their heads. At the front door, I put my foot against the frame and pulled the thumb turn until the metal whined. It turned with the slow resistance of something turning the other way inside the wall. I yanked the chain free and stepped into cold air so honest it was like being slapped. On the porch, my phone erupted 10 missed calls. Noor's name stacked like a to-do list. I called back. She answered in half a ring. "I'm outside," I said. "I'm fine." The skeleton on the swing creaked. Footsteps sounded behind me, soft, like someone padding down an extra long hall. Noor's voice went flat. "Where is outside?" I gave her the address. She went quiet. Then she said, very carefully, "Look at the house number." I did. The hand-painted digits over the door didn't match the pin anymore. They matched the original party address from noon. I checked the street sign. My stomach turned inside out. I wasn't 3 miles from campus. I was 2 blocks from the bar where everyone was going later, a route I could walk blind. Somewhere in there, I'd crossed a distance that didn't fit in my head or on any map. The front door eased itself closed behind me with a latch click precise as a clock. I backed down the steps. Music inside went on, the same volume as before, like a pulse in a wrist. When I reached Noor's car, she'd left the bar and come for me without asking. She leaned across the console and locked my door before saying anything. "You don't look good," she said. "House party," I said, and laughed meanly. "Half-mask theme." She didn't laugh. She looked past me at the house and said, "I don't see anybody in the windows." I turned. The glass reflected our car and the street like mirrors. It reflected me, mask askew, hair sweaty. Behind my reflection, in the dark of the foyer, 3 white ovals drifted a trick of light and glass. I told myself. I told myself again when the ovals tilted in synchrony, like 3 people leaning to see which way we'd go. We actually did make it to the real party for half an hour. We stood by the kitchen fridge and let normal human noise erase the corners of what had just happened. When my heart slowed, I pulled out my phone to show Noor the text with the pin. It wasn't there. The thread existed, but the message with the address had been deleted or was never sent or lived somewhere else now. Noor swore she'd seen my location jump across the map and back again. My phone's battery ticked down 2% in a single breath. I didn't sleep that night. I kept pulling up Street View of both addresses, then Street View didn't load. Around 3 a.m., I looked out the window. A car idled across the street with its lights off. It could have been waiting for anyone. It could have been the doorman, mask in his lap, waiting for the moment I'd think I dreamed it, and step outside to prove I hadn't. 2 weeks later, I walked past the house in daylight. I wanted it to be a duplex with normal people dragging bins to the curb. It wasn't. It was empty. A realtor lockbox on the knob. A for sale sign that had fallen and leaned against a bush. The porch swing gone. The number over the door was painted over, gray on gray, like a scar. I don't remember when I lost the lunchbox. I don't remember taking it. Sometimes, when the house settles, a hollow metal sound in the wall makes me think I didn't lose it at all. I think about the hatch, with the 2 numbers and the knock from the wrong side. Halloween this year, I stayed home. I taped a sign to my door. Sorry, out of candy, and turned off all the lights. Around 9, somebody knocked 3 times. Polite. The sound came from the baseboard, near the crawl space, like a request. I put my ear to the wall and heard a party on the other side, a murmur of masked voices and a friendly man asking if I'd mind bringing the rest of me back to where I'd left it. I didn't answer. I'm still not sure if I left the door cracked